lives on tape. It lives on tape. Stop worrying.
Not once have you heard me.
It lives on tape. Tape.
Another technological disaster.
It lives. It lives. It lives on tape. Look out! That slithering death is right on you!
Welcome everyone to It Lives on Tape podcast with me, Torkel, and Tanner is here as well. How you going?
G'day. Good, thanks, Torkel. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm very happy to wish everyone a very wonderful Spooktober, all of our listeners.
Yes.
I hope you've had an amazing October and a Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween, everyone. Spookiest night of the year.
Yeah, we're recording this just...
We also had a Friday the 13th this month,
Yes.
which is wild.
The rare Friday the 13th. I actually looked those up recently and I was like, oh, there's another one coming up, I think in like a few months. So they're not too often these Friday the 13th, and we hope you had a spooky one. And we hope you've all got some good Halloween plans coming up as well. We're recording this just before Halloween, but it'll probably come out a little after. So we hope you enjoyed your Halloween as well.
Yes.
So
or not. Maybe you're into terrifying Halloweens. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you hate Halloween. This is the thing, isn't it? Like Halloween isn't that big of a deal in Australia, and it's kind of annoying, quite frankly, because we get all these great horror movies, and Americans are over the top with their Halloween, to be honest. But I wish we had a bit of that here.
I mean, there's like very little trick or treating that goes on here, especially in WA, I think, because places are further away, and urban sprawl maybe makes it difficult to walk between houses and whatnot.
We've got a lot of open space in remote areas in WA.
Right. Which, are scary in their own way. But I got to tell you, I did not feel like Halloween was not a big deal today when I went to go get my costume for this episode that we'll reveal later on. Because I went to my local costume shop and it was insane. There were so many people in there. They were all like fighting over costumes. Someone shouted from across the store, "Do we have any more axes?" The shopkeeper was like, "No, we don't. Everyone wants to go as Pearl or Norman Bates. There is no in between."
My God. You feel right at home there.
Wild times. No, I wasn't. I was near having a panic attack.
Oh, yeah, true. I forget about that part, the mass crowds. But, that's one of the only places where it'd be okay to yell, do we have any more axes? Other than
Please.
that and Bunnings. Yeah.
It was cool. Wild.
I'm excited. We're all excited to see later on when we get both of our costumes together, because I've got a bit of a filter on the camera at the moment to look a bit spooky, but this isn't the extent of my costume either, so lots of surprises coming up.
Very exciting surprises. Yes. I've already seen it, and is it a sight to behold? In fact, I kind of had a hand in making your costume.
I dare say you were the tailor, we could say.
That's right. I didn't know I was making a costume at the time. So
yeah, the magic, the Hollywood magic of our own. Anything can be done.
That's right. So again, before we kick off this episode, we just wanted to thank everyone so much for your support thus far. It means the world to us. Having people watch this and enjoy this over the last couple of weeks has been really great. We've had a lot of great conversations with people. We've had a lot of people in our personal lives reach out to us, telling their love of horror to us that we otherwise didn't know about, which is fantastic. And if you're watching this and you're enjoying it, please leave us a review, a rating, a star rating on Spotify, or subscribe to us on YouTube. It helps our humble little pod fly
Yeah, that's what I like.
I can't
like
figure the analogy for it.
I like
you
the
know.
humble little pod because we're a humble little pod. We're just doing a horror thing over here, and we've had a few ratings already, and lots of people saying nice things, and it's amazing to see. And that's how the podcast. That's how you help the podcast grow and to get seen as well. So we'd really appreciate that on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube and all the good places that you can consume our content at.
Our last episode was X traps for Saw X, where we made up 10 traps for a movie that we hadn't seen, and I hadn't at the time seen any Saw movies.
Yeah, which was a surprise to me. I didn't even realize until we started the episode that you hadn't seen Saw.
I kept that hidden. I didn't want to seem uncool. And then the guilt
club
was just bubbling up, and I had to let it go.
Yeah.
So since then, I've seen 3 Saw movies.
Damn.
I've
Over
seen
the course of a week or two.
Right. I've seen Saw 1, 2, and X.
And 10.
And 10, which is fine, I think, because Saw X takes place in between Saw 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can see the appeal with these Saw movies and see why people watch them.
It wasn't too much like torture and stuff like that. It was okay.
It was definitely too much torture.
Yeah. It is a bit too much.
Saw X, I had to look away so much in the cinema.
Ooh.
There was so much of that film that I didn't see directly with my eyes. And oh my God, the eyes. The eyes part happens like very close to the start, and it caught me off guard how quickly they rolled that out.
Oh God. It's all about the eyes in that one.
Oh, just eye stuff. And, like medical gore just in general, I don't think is really my thing. I know it's definitely not my thing.
Yeah. I'm not that into it. Not particularly into it myself.
No, the friend I went to go see Saw X with, Ellie Christina, friend of the pod, she was saying, oh yeah, it was medical gore. So it was like a lot easier to watch, I thought. And I'm like, no, that's even worse. I think for some reason that just, it really gets to me.
Yeah.
Have I told you about the film I fainted during?
I don't think you have. That's interesting.
Yeah,
what was that?
It's a film called Are We Not Cats?
Oh,
and
you have told me about this.
It's about this girl who has the compulsion to eat hair. So she's eaten all her own hair, and then this guy falls in love with her, and she's living out remotely. She's an artist, and he's out there staying with her, and she eats his hair, and that's how he realizes that she has a hair eating problem. And obviously, as humans, we can't really process hair, and it's a very real condition called Rapunzel syndrome. And what ends up happening is this brick of hair forms in your alimentary canal, like forms in your stomach, and prevents you from absorbing any nutrients. And she goes into a catatonic state, and then he has to perform emergency surgery, amateur surgery on her, while the ambulance will take 2 to 3 hours to get to her. They completely caught me off guard.
Oh yeah.
And I just stopped watching. I went downstairs to go to bed, and on my way to bed, fainted and luckily landed on the couch.
Whoa.
It was so gross.
Damn. That's lucky, yeah.
I was very lucky not to fall and hit my head.
Yeah. The safety of the couch. Holy hell. So I guess the answer to the question, are we not cats, is no, we're not cats.
No, we're not.
I know so many movies that have quotes like, are we this animal? And it's always, no, we're not. We're humans.
No, we're not.
That's
we're
the
not.
animal we are. God, yeah, that sounds horrible. I could imagine that as a saw trap, forcing someone to eat hair as well.
Oh, that's what I should have done.
Yeah.
That movie is always at the forefront of my mind now.
Oh,
I'm surprised I didn't think of it.
Makes me uncomfortable just from I haven't seen much hair eating stuff, but there was one horror movie where someone pulled out their hair and that's a condition. And there's one YouTube video, I think called like Hair Cake, where the bunch of, hooligans make a cake with hair and they try to eat it. And that was horrible enough to watch on its own.
No. Oh, it's so gross.
Those are my experiences with hair content.
Terrible. But yeah, our last episode, the Sorax, I had a lot of fun with. I'm sure you did too.
That was such a fun episode, I'm really excited
thanks
for everyone
coming with that episode as well. That was
no worries, no.
Really
it was a good one. I thought we got to clickbait and get those, free Saw X clicks while it's still in the cinema kind of thing.
Right.
But also we put our own spin on it and made a bunch of fun traps. So check it out, guys. And I'm so excited for all the shorts and reels to start coming out. One just came out today on YouTube. If you guys want to see that, it's called Jigsaw Airlines. Because there's such like funny little clips that we got out of it of like the trap ideas and just various funny moments throughout the show.
We want to do more episodes like that as well, like pitching ideas, zany stuff. I was thinking at some point we could pitch, maybe as part of Christmas or any of the holidays, we could pitch our own holiday themed slashes or even, local boogeyman ideas, like unlikely boogeymen.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll think about that offline and see if we can build an episode around something like that, I guess.
Oh yeah, I love all that sort of stuff. You know me, all the creative stuff. We both dabble in the writing. I love those kind of episodes.
So what are we covering today? Do you want to reveal it more graciously than I?
Well, we're doing Halloween and Michael Myers, and we've got our own Michael Myers in the building. This is kind of terrifying. Is that a real? I think that's a real knife. That's definitely not a prop knife, I don't think. We're going to be covering the Halloween original movie from 1978, and of course, we're covering the reboots and the remakes and some of the influences to Halloween as well. Gotta say, nice costume.
It's very claustrophobic in here. I don't like it at all. Man, how does anyone deal with this?
Send help.
And of course, I'm going to get out of this and then I'll give props to your costume. I can't even see right now. It's like...
Oh my God. I love that.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I've got my own little costume that the audience may not quite recognize, but we'll give it away here. This is the intro to our show that Tanner made himself, so that's how he's involved with this costume.
Yes.
I'm wearing a green t-shirt, a green hat, and I'm trying to key in the video onto myself.
Yes, you've somehow turned your skin a shade of green as well through some movie magic.
Yes, I've got green lights as well, so that's how that's working. I've got green lights in front of me. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I thought you'd just like purposefully eaten some off food, like in that saw trap that you had last week.
Yeah, I'm violently ill from old Weet-Bix. So
I think it was airline food at that point.
Oh, the airline food. Yeah, true. I bought some airline food online and I'm green ill.
Gosh. Actually, a friend of mine watches this YouTube channel that's all like this guy eating old ration packs.
I know the one.
Oh, man. Yeah. Some of the stuff is like, really? Are you going to put that in your body? It's like 200 years old. It should be in a museum.
I think he's like they call him the MRA man or something like that. The meal ration. I forget what it stands for. But yeah, he gets like fossilized foods and eats them. And he's just living that nightmare, and he's enjoying it somehow. So props to him, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we all live in hope that we find something that we love doing.
Yeah.
And he's done it. He's living the dream.
He's done it. He's living his own Saw trap, and we're living out our dreams in horror podcasting right now with the Halloween movies, which I had never seen before. I'm surprised to announce that. I don't think I'd ever seen a single one of these Halloween movies. I've seen like Freddy versus Jason. Wait, no, that's to do with Friday the 13th.
Not Halloween.
So that's inspired, but that's not the same thing.
Right.
I've seen one of the Friday the 13th I've seen. So that's a different thing as well, but inspired.
Right.
And yeah.
Have you seen any Nightmare on Elm Street?
Yeah, I've seen, I think, almost all the Nightmare on Elm Streets. Is that a connection there? Yeah,
well, it was inspired by Halloween as well. You know, the slasher mythology. But yeah, Halloween was like the breakthrough slasher. It set a lot of the tropes for the movies that followed. Like you were saying, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, a whole bunch of holiday-themed horror movies as well came out in response to this. So a couple of... I pulled up a list of holiday-related slashers. There's a lot. And these were the ones with the best titles. So we've got Christmas Evil, play on Christmas Eve, obviously. And then, you know, building on that, New Year's Evil.
Nice. A few days
not
later.
Not at all related, those films.
That's good.
Yeah, a week in between.
Gotta get
and
it in
My
there.
Bloody Valentine, which I think is actually quite an influential movie in its own right. I think. I have heard about it.
That may be a future episode because I've heard of that one and I think I own it on DVD, but I haven't watched it yet. Another one.
I think it's also a band. Dare I say a shoegaze band? But anyway, if that's wrong, I'll cut it from the episode. Heck, if it's right, I'll cut it from the episode. But the Halloween story, for those of you who haven't watched it or haven't seen it in a long while, first of all, go watch it. It's a brilliant movie. It centers around three girls who are in their senior year at high school. I don't quite understand how high school structures work in the US. But they're like 17 and they're babysitters and they're hunted down on Halloween night by the town's very own boogeyman, Michael Myers.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. The famed
man in the
Michael
mask.
Myers, who I was dressed as earlier. He's a knife-wielding, mask-wearing psychopath. Is he immortal? Is he not? What's his backstory? We kind of know. Yeah.
There's been a little bit, and people will definitely recognize him even if you haven't seen the movies, because like we've showed earlier, he's got that iconic mask, and he doesn't speak in almost any of the movies other than like the backstory movies. That's the one. And I think there's a backstory behind the movie Mask, if I'm not mistaken, in the Halloween movie, right?
Yes. Not as part of the movie, but in the making of the movie.
That fascinated me.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. So you've watched it just recently. Yeah. Do you want to give a couple of notes straight off the press?
Obviously, because I've never seen any of them. And then I started with the first one, of course, the OG, 1978.
Good place to start.
Immediately I was like, okay, this music, I've heard it many times since in other things. So the iconic music in it, I can see like how that came to be, you know what I mean? That really set the tone for that music.
The soundtrack is amazing. This film has the best horror movie soundtrack, possibly the best soundtrack in any genre. I don't know. Let us know other soundtracks that you think compete.
I dare say it's right up there. I dare say. It's really good. It's like that droning piano sort of thing, and it's really tense and suspenseful, and it keeps going and going and going. And as you're getting the POV from like, you know, Michael Myers, the killer's perspective kind of thing, that's really creepy. And I can see how that's, you know, was really, I don't know. I imagine that would have been terrifying when it came out in 1978 to see from the perspective of a psychopath walking around a house and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And funnily enough, when John Carpenter, the director, we'll be talking a lot about John Carpenter in this episode. And hopefully in future episodes, I'd love to do a deep dive across his whole catalog, or even just a couple of his movies. But when he first showed a cut of the film to film execs, he didn't have the music for it.
No way.
And they were like, this isn't scary at all.
Sucks.
Yeah, this sucks. You failed. Is this supposed to be scary? I'm not even scared. Like,
just you wait.
Halloween.
Just you wait.
So he went away and did the music because he'd done the film first, and then his process is to do the music later, and showed them again, and they were like, "Oh wow, okay, this is crazy." And there's lots of stories of like people involved in the movie going to watch it and noticing people in the audience like covering their ears or like plugging their ears rather than covering their eyes. And that just goes to show, I think, how strong the soundtrack is.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine that. Like I said, people were a lot more conservative like that long ago, because I mean, we think like, okay, it's not that long ago, it's almost the 80s, but when you think about it, we're in 2023 now. This is a long time ago, 1978. People weren't used to the scary movies that we have now. So something like this coming out from the killer's perspective with this creepy music that just keeps going on and builds up a scene almost indefinitely until something finally happens. I could imagine people freaking out.
The tense. It's very rhythmic, very like, it's almost a step further to the Psycho, re, you know, that punctuation of the high notes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
It kind of reminds me almost of, this is just a funny quip, but shows like game shows like 8 out of 10 Cats and stuff, when they do the countdown timer. It's almost like that, but an evil version instead of happy. Yep. No, absolutely. So, yeah, those are my initial kind of thoughts about it. Obviously, iconic music, iconic footage. And yeah, a lot of the classic tropes that we see now. This is probably the first movie to do a lot of those, like the final girl, is that what it's called? Like the drunken teenagers getting murdered for doing so.
Right.
Things like that. I'm like, okay, I see where this came from now, because they're just things that you take for granted in new movies almost.
Yeah, you know, the rules of the slasher genre, like don't have sex, or don't drink, don't do drugs.
Exactly.
Don't go out somewhere alone. Always stick with the group. These are things that were spawned from this movie, but that wasn't an intentional thing at all, or something that the filmmakers were trying to like make commentary on, you know, around like purity and whatnot. So John Carpenter and Deborah Hall, who did all the writing, and Deborah Hall was a producer. She was a co-writer and producer on the film. She said, we weren't trying to make a commentary on, you know, how we believe that teenagers should act. We weren't trying to like make people remain pure or anything like that. It was just something that these kids were doing anyway, and you know, and the killer is just there. There's no deeper commentary than that. It's just, a fun movie.
Yeah, that's a lot of the vibe I got from it. Was these things seem to just happen almost without reason, and then you'd have to use your imagine why Michael Myers is on this killing spree. Like, why are these scenarios occurring? How does he keep surviving? All these, like, yeah, it's just movie happening for the sake of the movie happening. And then they try to fill in the gaps in some of the other movies, obviously, but it's kind of cool that they could create something so iconic right off the bat. Yeah, kids just be
it's
out
something
here.
so self-contained as well. Like,
yeah,
I personally think the film stands on its own. I don't think it needed follow-ups. And in fact, John Carpenter and Deborah Hall, they didn't think that there should be additional movies.
Yeah.
They wrote the second one, but they had a lot of trouble with it. Sorry, Deborah Hill, I meant to say. Not Deborah Hall.
Yeah, I read that.
But yeah, they actually really struggled with writing the second film because they're like, okay, how do we change this up? Or like, what story do we tell? Or, you know, we did it right the first time. Why do they want us to make another movie?
It's the Hollywood way, isn't it? Like, something successful, you got to keep doing it.
Right.
But it makes a lot of sense because that movie does stand up on its own. And I read that they were hesitant with even like the newer trilogy as well. They were not sure until they were convinced. And it makes sense. Like, you know, Hollywood's going to keep doing its thing. And watching this movie, because I was, you know, learned so much about the slasher genre from it, it's inspired me to take a trip down the Halloween lane and to look at all the Halloween movies eventually. I think there's like 14 of them.
Yeah, me too. And I haven't seen anything outside of like the core set. I haven't even seen the second one. So yeah, I will do the same. But yeah, I'm definitely not in a rush to watch some of them. It's going to take a while.
Oh yeah, I imagine there's some gems in there and then some real trash among the treasure.
Yeah, it's probably, you know, good movies to put on with friends, and to have a laugh about. But yeah, how did this film come about? John Carpenter was an up and coming director and writer. He had made a film called Assault on Precinct 13, and it had gotten a bit of buzz in the European market. It had been published by a guy in the UK called Michael Myers, who Carpenter would pay homage to in Halloween by naming the pivotal character Michael Myers after that distributor. Yeah, apparently he was like, why did you name the bad guy after me?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, like this is nice. This is a nice thing I've done.
He's like, do you secretly hate me? Did I wrong you with one of our business deals?
Right. But yeah, he was approached by Erwin Yablans after that movie, and he was asked, can you make a horror movie set on Halloween? Because Erwin had noticed that there were no horror films that had been released under the name Halloween. And he was like, wow, this is an untapped market. What the heck? Like, why am I the only person who's ever thought of this? This is going to be crazy. And
he was an original clickbaiter.
It was. And Carpenter said, yeah, I'll do it in $300,000.
Damn.
And I'll shoot it in 3 to 4 weeks.
Damn.
And he did.
Whoa.
Boy, did he. It's really quite astonishing.
That's crazy. 3 to 4 weeks. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. His takeaway was, I think, $10,000, which at the time was like a pretty good slice. But he directed, co-wrote, and scored the movie all for $10,000 and a 10% take home of any profits. It's pretty big.
Damn. Well, you know, back in those days, 1978, $10,000 is probably worth about $100 million now.
Right. It's billions upon billions.
He's a trillionaire.
Oh my goodness. He's got so much money.
Yeah, that was my little money joke in there. I don't know how much it's worth, but it's probably like 100,000 or something, not quite a trillion.
You could buy the moon. You could buy many moons.
Yeah. You could buy every horror movie ever made.
Definitely. But just a quick sort of quip on how they secured the funding. So they approached this guy named Mustafa Akkad, who had been the financier on a couple of like really big epic scale movies. Like we're talking like big battle scenes in the desert, horses riding around, you know, like big scale productions, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, he was a bit dubious. He was like, I don't know. This kind of doesn't seem like my kind of film.
Yeah.
And
bit weird.
Owen was like, you know, if it's too much money for you, like, that's fine. We understand. And he was like, no, it's not. Here, take the money. And now he's the biggest Halloween fan of all time.
No
I found
way.
so many interviews where he's like holding a Michael Myers figurine and he's like, everyone who approaches me about making another Halloween movie, they always want to kill this guy. And I say, no, you can't kill this guy. I love him too much.
That's so sweet. I'm just imagining him being this nice old man, just like in love with his project now.
But yeah, so John Carpenter co-wrote with Deborah Hill, as I was saying before, but she wrote all the female characters. She brought the setting. She had grown up in a town called Haddonfield, which is where the film takes place. Although this Haddonfield is like a fictional place.
Yeah, that's cool.
And she was responsible for casting Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode.
Wow. Iconic casting choice. Jamie Lee Curtis.
As it would turn out, this was her first film, would you believe?
What? Okay, you got so much. I knew you'd have all the info on this. I didn't know any of these things. That's awesome.
I hope so.
First.
This is my research episode.
Yeah, that's awesome though. You got all the knowledge on it. I was just sitting back enjoying all the movies, just chilling. Now I'm learning.
You were saying before, because I'd written a list of movies and some of them I hadn't even gotten around to watching, which is bad of me. But you're saying, I didn't have a clue of what the connection was for all these movies.
Yeah, exactly. The Assault on Precinct 13. I was like, okay, what's this movie? And checked it out and watched it, and I was like, I can definitely see the similarities. So yeah, I'm guessing that this is connected, and now I'm learning it all.
Yeah, John Carpenter's first movie.
It makes sense now. Yeah. No, I could hear like some of those iconic tones of music throughout it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, his scoring of films originated as like out of necessity because he was making his own movies and they were very low budget. He didn't have money to throw at composers. And he'd grown up playing music, playing on keyboards, and just started doing it himself. He had some knack, some intuition for it. He's
done all on his own.
Most of his own movies, I think.
Yeah.
And he's been releasing anthology releases lately that are re-performances. He's got a band and they've been re-recording some of the movie soundtracks.
No way.
They're great. Oh man, it's so good to work to.
Cool. I'm gonna take a trip
awesome.
down Spotify lane after this and listen to some of those.
Yeah, no, they're great. back to Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Deborah Hill made the casting choice to bring Jamie Lee on. But then it was sort of sweetened because Jamie Lee Curtis's mum is Janet Leigh, who played Marion Crane in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
Okay. The connection is strong.
She's the woman in the shower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one who gets, I guess, very gory at the time. The stabbing moment.
Right. And Psycho, you know, very, very important film in the modern horror genre. It was like the first modern horror film. Prior to Psycho, horror had been very sort of like lofty tales of sort of higher fantasy, you know, a castle on a hill where some vampiric specter was entertaining guests, or, you know, it was happening in like exotic locations. And Alfred Hitchcock really brought it to the American everyday life, you know, setting it in a dingy, rundown motel on the side of a highway.
Yeah. Bates Motel. Oh, yeah, that's
infamed Bates Motel.
Yeah, and thank you so much, guys, for bringing, you know, horror into our everyday lives. For us, it's great, but for a lot of people, it's very full on. But they should stay away from the movies, to say the least, especially ones like Halloween.
Yes. You know, we were talking a bit before about the legacy of the film, you know, the tropes that it's actually, no, we've already covered all that. So I'm just reading my show notes. I'll cut this out. No.
I was going to say, with that bringing it into everyday life, that's unintentionally played out through the scenes of, like you said, the teenagers fooling around, drinking, going to parties, and then there's been consequences to those actions, i.e. stabbing incident with Michael Myers, whatnot. And then also in Precinct 13, there's a lot of this emphasis of so it's a gang of young hooligans, as they say on the news during the movie, who raid a police station. And on the news, they're like, oh, there's young gangs everywhere and they're out of control. And if they get organized with the weapons they have, they'd be unstoppable. No one is safe. Like really driving in the fear home to everyday people. And I'm watching that and I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing. You're making us scared to go outside after we watch the movie.
Yeah. And speaking of emphasis, so a big theme throughout Halloween is the idea of fate, and Michael Myers being this unstoppable force of nature that is largely like motiveless. We don't know why he's doing what he's doing. He never speaks. He never explains his actions. Even Dr. Loomis, who was his psychiatrist for 15 years, he has no idea why Michael does what he does, why he's so evil. And there's this fantastic scene, and I wonder if it's the first of its kind. It's definitely a trope that has developed, where Laurie is sitting in class. It's an English class. The teacher is talking about some book that they've all read, and she's talking about fate, while Laurie is daydreaming and looking out the window and seeing Michael Myers across the road, looking back at her. And the teacher is just going on this monologue about fate, and is emphasizing fate like so strongly, like it's practically like they're shouting fate. And they say it like 20 times across a 30-second scene. It's amazing.
Oh my God. I remember that scene. I forgot that they were talking about fate, but yeah, I'm getting the image pop back up in my head now. Just the background of the teacher going, yes, and fate is very important. And then just the image of Michael Myers like, I wonder what's going to happen here. I wonder what her fate might be.
Yeah. It's so funny because I watched Halloween 3 times this week in preparation for this. Okay. And the first time that didn't even occur to me that they were like overemphasizing the word fate, or that fate was a theme at all. I hadn't really processed that. And then with each rewatch, I was just like, wow, they're saying fate like a lot, and they're like being really precise about it. They're like enunciating it like really well. And then the third time I watched it, I was just like losing my shit, just laughing because she's shouting fate. Fate, 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 fate. It's so good.
And when we talk about fate, you know, fate comes to mind, and fate. Michael Myers is just standing off in the distance in the playground wearing a big T-shirt that says "Fate" on it.
Yeah, he's like flinching every time she says it because she's fate. So loud,
like a sleeper cell agent being awoken.
And that idea of fate, you know, to build on that, you know, where else is it in the movie? There's a couple of subtle hints. There's a freight train that is running into town after Dr. Loomis gets off the phone with, I think, the local police, trying to pre-warn them that Michael's on his way. And as he hangs up the phone, this freight train just goes as a sort of mini jump scare. And then train sounds sort of find their way into the soundtrack when Michael Myers is about to do a kill. It's really interesting to like start picking up on that sort of subtle construction that happens, that telegraphing.
Yeah, I didn't notice that at all. That's super interesting. That makes me want to check again.
Yeah, it's like a train bell type sound. It's all synthetic, but yeah, it's like an auditory reference.
Yeah, added in to imitate the sound of a incoming collision or like a, I don't know, fate package being delivered kind of thing.
Yes.
You're about to meet with a train in Michael Myers who's going to murder you.
That's right. Yes, that unstoppable force.
Exactly, unstoppable force, like a locomotive. There you have it.
That's right. And speaking of unstoppable force, let's talk about the man who tried to stop him, Dr. Samuel Loomis, who is like cast as like the hero of the film.
Yeah.
He's sort of like a bit like the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
Throughout. He's just trying to warn people how bad and how messed up Michael is. And no one wants to listen. Everyone's like, he can't be that bad.
Yeah. Come on.
Or yeah, it's fine. He can't drive a car.
Yeah. He can't do anything. He's just a guy who's seemingly immensely strong and just unstoppable. But I've also got a bone. Right. I've got a bone to pick with Dr. Loomis because
please pick it.
This guy, right? They're casting him, like you said, as the hero, but he's supposed to be a qualified psychiatrist or something to Michael Myers, and he's going around telling people these things off the cuff, like he's evil, he's incarnate, he's the spirit itself, he's hell, and he's coming to get you. It's like, did you talk about your patients this way?
It's like, oh gee, I'm his patient. Is he talking about me to people?
Yeah. They're up to no good. There's just all these people all my patients, they're just all freaks. There's something wrong with them. Like, yeah, they're seeing you for a reason, buddy.
I'm surrounded by crazy people.
Oh, God, I never expected this on the job. Gee whiz. So I don't know. I don't know about Dr. Loomis. And also, massive spoiler, but I'm going to say the ending of the movie right now, if that's okay.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. This is a very old movie. It's been remade a bunch of times. This is not a spoiler-free
This podcast
chat.
serves to get you to be invested in the movie, to watch the movie, and also to learn more about the movie. So, go and do that. But at the very end, Dr. Loomis also shoots his own patient.
Right.
I'm putting this into the context of Dr. Patient here. He shoots him several times.
You know what? I've never considered that to be a breach in the patient clinician relationship. That's
They didn't even write that in the textbook because that's just a crime.
I mean, in his defense, he was about to kill Laurie.
Yeah.
He had been killing people as well. I don't think Dr. Loomis really knew that he'd killed people earlier that night.
He was saving Laurie Strode, but also just the sheer police ineptitude throughout this movie. For them, he's somehow working with the only police officer who's on the case, because all the others have been, they're oblivious or they've been murdered and whatnot. And he's running around. Dr. Loomis is the guy who gets there first and everything. And it's up to him to kill his own patient in the end.
Well, actually, the small nature of the police department was an intentional plot decision. Setting it in a small US town, where there's only a handful of police officers. You
got to stop the unstoppable force.
Right. Yeah. Like the big bad comes to town and they've got to stop it. It's like, how can they?
That's so similar to Precinct 13 as well, because it's a precinct that's getting moved elsewhere. And it's in a small area and there's like barely anyone running it anymore. And then a new sheriff comes to town. He doesn't know, like he just gets thrown into the mix of like an empty precinct and then he gets attacked. It's like, I can definitely see the inspiration there.
That's an interesting parallel. Very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Back to Dr. Loomis. So originally, if we can talk about his casting, originally for the role, I don't know if you know this actor, but probably once I tell you who his character is, you'll know him for sure. So Peter Cushing was the original actor. And look him up. He was General Moff Tarkin in Star Wars.
Oh, yes. Okay. That's the only thing I recognize him from.
Right. It's the only thing I recognize him from as well.
Yeah. I remember him being the 3D, generated model in like the new Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah. They modeled him for, I forget what it was. It wasn't Rogue One, was it?
It was, no, I think
there's
it was
so many new Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
It's so hard to keep track of.
I think it was the second of like the new trilogy. I forget what it was called, but I think the second one. Yeah.
Gotcha. So they couldn't get him. He was too big of an actor, unfortunately.
Dang.
They approached another Star Wars great though.
Oh.
He's also a horror great. He's been in a lot of horror movies. Christopher Lee.
Aha. Christopher Lee. Yes,
Christopher
iconic.
Lee. Yes.
Yes, indeed.
One of the most iconic faces in horror.
Yeah.
We just saw him in Wicker Man.
Yeah, the Wicker Man original one. He plays the Reverend or whatever they call him, like the leader of the island. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was really good in that role.
The cult leader dude.
Yeah.
And he's got that wonderful wig that he wears that makes him look like a Norwegian death metal. singer.
And his like fancy suits and kilts and everything. Yeah, it's very stylish in that movie, I gotta say.
Oh, yes. Very charismatic. So they actually approached him and he turned it down.
Damn.
But he said he pulled Carpenter aside years later and was like, I regret that. Oh. That's like my biggest regret across my whole career.
Wow.
Is that I wasn't in your movie. I didn't play Dr. Loomis.
He would have been so good at it as well. Yeah, these are all really good choices off the bat.
Yeah, but they went with Donald Pleasance, who was really good in the role. I think it really suited him. Yeah, previous to Halloween, he had been in The Great Escape, which I loved as a kid. I'd watch it every time it was on telly. About a prisoner of war camp and the Allied troops escaping it.
I remember that getting played on TV, like reruns a lot growing up. Yeah.
Nice. So good. Another great soundtrack.
Yeah.
He'd also been in James Bond movies as Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Who is that? Who is that character? I don't know that character name.
Yeah, no idea.
You might know him as the cat guy.
Oh, okay. The cat guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So that trope that we've seen everywhere where it's like
Dr. Evil. Yes.
Mr. Bond. I've been expecting you.
Say hello. To
that
Mr.
was him.
Whiskers.
He was the guy.
That's so cool. Yeah, he's the one who Dr. Evil from Austin Powers is based off of.
Right.
I never would have recognized him. That's awesome.
And when he jumped on the film, because he was like the biggest actor tied to it, he was a bit harsh on Carpenter, and he was like, look, the only reason that I've even considered this role is because my daughter plays guitar in a punk band, and she really liked the soundtrack for Assault on Precinct 13. So that's the only reason I'm even giving this time. Now, what is my character? What is he doing? What's his motivation here?
Well, he had a lot in store for him because he had a very, mixed bag of a character. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
He ended up warming to the cast and crew a lot, and the whole cast and crew, by all accounts, every documentary that I watched on this film, there were a lot of stories from crew members about the sort of collegiate nature of the people working on the film. It was very much like a family. They'd get together and have barbecues on set, and
cool.
They were like, messing around, playing jokes, and like hanging out with each other. So yeah, it was a really nice movie apparently to be involved in.
I imagine they would have been busy doing it over, the course of 4 or 6 weeks. He said, so they would have spent a lot of time together over that month.
And it was funny because they were, it takes place in autumn, and they filmed it in spring. And,
Australia Halloween.
Right. But to give the illusion of autumn, they had all these fake leaves, like these dead leaves, like buckets of them, and they could only afford that many.
Oh, no.
And so after every scene, they'd have to recollect them so that they could throw them somewhere else to give the illusion.
I can imagine someone being like in charge of that, like the leaf guy, and he's like, "Oh, where are my leaves? There was 1,000 in here yesterday. I'm missing 2. God damn it, guys! We don't have an infinite amount of leaves."
They don't grow on trees.
Yeah, not this time of year. We need dead leaves, okay? You want to kill a tree, okay? That's unethical. You can't be killing trees for a movie.
Yeah,
I like the idea as well. Like yeah, that's autumn. Just like get some dead leaves and sprinkle them around. It's like, that is autumn in my mind.
I mean, it sold it. I feel like it sold it.
Yeah.
It definitely feels, I mean, I've never been to the US. I don't know really what it looks like outside of watching movies. But yeah, it looks like the US in autumn.
I was going to say, I wonder where Haddonfield is, like the real place, because I know it's fictional in the movie, but I wonder where it's based in the US. I might look that up quickly now. Township in New Jersey.
Oh.
So
okay.
So in the US during autumn, they are, I know around the New York sort of area, which is next to New Jersey, obviously, they do all the, people go out for day trips and see all the beautiful colored forests of leaves. So yeah, that makes sense then, because that area is sort of known for having quite vibrant, dead leaves or changing color of leaves.
Yeah. It was filmed in LA though.
Oh, what? LA. Those rapscallions in Hollywood.
Yeah. It was filmed in a neighborhood in LA. There's a whole bunch of like pine trees in the movie that kind of ruin the immersion if you know what the US looks like.
Yeah.
So
that's good. I want to spot those now.
Bit of a funny Easter egg. Not a very high impact Easter egg.
There's a pine tree.
Oh,
there's a
that
Hollywood
tree
sign.
is inaccurate for the region that they're supposed to be in.
I love doing
in some
that though.
Fictional town.
Yeah, I love spotting things like that in movies though, and being like, "That's inaccurate, guys. You overlooked it. Come on, come on." It makes me feel
what,
good.
Your budget prohibited you from like knocking down a tree. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I mean, come on, get a green screen over that thing.
Yeah,
a giant green screen.
Have some respect for your craft.
Yeah, come on, guys. If I made this movie, just high and mighty watching it.
Speaking of, should we talk about the remakes?
Oh yeah, we really should, because you probably can't talk about the original without mentioning the several remakes, can you?
Yeah. This film has seen a couple of remakes, a couple of reboots. They were trying to like keep it going all through the 80s into the 90s, and then 2000s they made a straight remake in the hands of Rob Zombie.
Rob Zombie. Yep, the man himself, the musician, I thought. And apparently he's out here making movies. What's all this about?
Yeah, he's made a fair few movies.
Yeah.
Was he House of Wax?
Oh, yeah, I think he was actually. That was only a few years ago now. House of Wax movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously I don't know that much about his music, to be honest, but I know he's very horror themed. He even had a band called White Zombie back in the day. Throwback to one of our other episodes.
That's right.
And he's very theatrical with his costumes and stuff when he's performing. So it kind of makes sense that he'd move into doing movies as well, especially of the horror genre.
I am so sorry. I was so wrong.
Oh,
he didn't do House of Wax. He did House of 1,000 Corpses.
Another house.
Another house movie.
Yeah, spooky houses.
But
get a lot of those.
Yeah, Halloween. His reboot of his remake of Halloween.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. What did you think?
I thought it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough around the edges. Throughout the middle as well, probably.
Yeah. It's like half an hour longer than the original movie, I guess, so that it can give you all this backstory. The first literal half of the movie is Michael Myers as a kid. So it's almost 2 movies.
Yeah, it really is. That first part is about an extra half hour just giving that backstory.
The original film does a backstory, like as a brief opening to the movie. They show Michael killing his sister Judith on Halloween.
I thought they did that really well as well, because it's like, why did he do it? It's left it up in the air, but you can sort of get the image that, okay, it's Halloween. it's when the spiritual veil is at its thinnest. He's probably been overtaken by some sort of spirit and he's just done something. You know, that's what I thought. But in this one, they had to give him a whole horrible upbringing backstory with his insanely offensive family, especially his dad, who's just swearing nonstop.
Oh, yeah, his stepdad.
Yeah. Stepdad, that's right. Obscenities left and right. And oh, my Lord. And just being abusive.
Yeah, I looked up an original script for the Rob Zombie remake.
Yeah.
I was expecting there to be a lot of differences between that and the actual movie. And there were virtually no differences.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine that.
no one told him no. I feel like he needs some people telling him no on certain things. Yeah. Apparently, though, he was just recently on Howie Mandel's podcast.
No way.
Yeah, I know. So that was interesting. And he spoke a little bit about his time working on Halloween and how difficult it was working with the producers. You know, how much of a toxic environment it was, you know, them telling him, oh, this is absolute rubbish. I mean, they're kind of right. But them being like, oh, no, this is the best thing ever when it starts to sell really well in the box office.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did have people telling him no, but I don't think there are enough people in places that he trusted giving him guidance on this movie.
Yeah, I feel like if it was less, you know, popular intellectual IP, and if he wasn't such a famous name himself, then this movie on its own would not have done well.
No.
So I can completely understand the producers in being like, look, this is trash, and then when it made money, they're like, oh, okay, no, it was actually pretty good, I guess, you know, because it made money. But it's like, it was still trash.
Yeah.
But it did make money.
And John Carpenter, I saw a more recent interview, and he was asked, what did you think of Rob Zombie's Halloween? And he was like, oh, well, you know, I would say like nice things about it. But Rob Zombie was interviewed for some documentary on the making of it, and he straight out lied and said that I was very cold to him every time we talked. And he's like, and that's just a total lie. He's like, I told him to make it his own and to not worry about what I would do or what I thought, and, you know, to just make it his own movie. And he's like, so having said all that, I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
And what did he say? He was like, oh, and this is harking back to what we were saying, explaining too much about the motives of Michael is a major detriment to the character. Yeah.
Yeah, it really
Carpenter was like the most upset about that.
I can see that. And like, I don't want to, you know, I know Rob Zombie's a very successful guy, but I also want to say I kind of feel bad for calling it trash earlier. I want to just say I'm a lover of movies, right? So I did still get enjoyment out of this movie, you know, just for the fact that it's, you know, someone else's image of the intellectual property of Halloween. You know, I liked his music choices, that sort of like Midwestern American rock and roll, just like interspersed throughout it. Things like that. It's like, okay, I can see that, you know, I can tell the kind of person who made this movie. It's kind of added that personal flair to it. But yeah, it wasn't that good overall. And like you said, with the way that it showed young Michael Myers going through trauma growing up and stuff, it took away some of that aura of mystery as to how he became this unstoppable, unkillable guy with the mask. It's like, oh no, he's also unstoppable and unkillable, but also it's due to childhood trauma. It's like, wait a minute, there's two things combining for this to happen. It can't just be that on its own. He can't just be super powerful when he spent his whole life sitting in a psych ward.
Right.
Yeah.
Making masks.
Exactly.
We never see him like bench pressing.
Yeah. There was no gym montage. There was none of that.
Would that have made the movie better, do you think, if there was
Yes.
like a training montage?
To Kid Rock music. That's what I imagine Rob Zombie might have chosen.
Yeah. Maybe that's the director's cut.
They took that out. That was a little too
Maybe
much.
I watched the director's cut. Maybe that's why it was so long.
I'm just imagining like Sweet Home Alabama as he's bench pressing in his room and there's just a picture of like his old house on there or something. He's like, that's where I'm going to go. This story's not over.
Something that they have in that movie is the idea that Laurie is the younger sister of Michael. That was introduced in the original Halloween 2
Okay.
as a like additional core plot point that Carpenter and Hill came up with sort of out of desperation. And it was kind of interesting to see that play out, but it didn't really play out in any sort of meaningful way.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh yeah, and you know, that baby at the start, this is her. This is her. She was adopted and she's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Until her brother comes back to town. I
He
don't know.
comes back to ruin it all. I want to say as well.
I hated the movie.
Yeah, you really hated it.
I had to get it all out of my system messaging you while I was watching it, so I wouldn't like trash it too hard here.
I'll say a couple of funny things about it to complement it a little bit, to balance it out. I liked, speaking of the baby, I liked at the start how the husband and wife, stepdad and mother shouting at each other. He's being very abusive and stuff. He's like, shouting stuff at her. And there's the baby right next to them who's crying, upset, obviously. And the baby just has this old, like, sort of raggedy navy beanie on. And it's just like, oh, baby with a beanie, that's how you know they're poor. You know what I mean? I feel like that was a specific choice, directorial choice.
In the costume department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, they're already shouting at each other and like there's a mess everywhere. I think the mother even had some dirt on her face and stuff like that because she's so like overworked because the dad doesn't do anything because he's disabled, I think. And it's just baby with a beanie as well.
It's like, how do we make this baby look poor?
Yeah.
I mean, babies are inherently poor anyway. They've got no material wealth. They come into this world with nothing. How do we give it even less than nothing?
Yeah.
Slap a beanie on it.
Yeah, exactly. The beanie's so out of place. It's just like, this is a cold baby. The heating's been shut off in their house maybe or something, This poor baby.
No.
I like that.
Interesting observation.
It jumped out at me. Also, young Michael Myers has hair very similar to my hair at the moment. It's some long blonde, sort of Kurt Cobain-esque locks. And I like that. I like that. That was a nice little thing.
This is a very niche reference. So those who know it, kudos. But he looks like, he looks a bit like Ty Segall, who is this garage rock musician. He's a bit of an unstoppable force in the garage rock scene. And on a more recent album, he performed like most concerts wearing this baby face mask, which is an interesting parallel. But every time I saw that kid, I was just like, that's Ty Segall. Then he started wearing masks and I was like, oh, okay, that's Ty Segall. Yeah, look him up, see if you
Ty Segall.
see if you agree.
Somehow I managed to spell his name right first try as well. Yeah, he does. He looks like
nice.
He looks like an early 20s version of young Michael Myers.
That's right.
From this movie. Yeah, and
I think he's a bit older than early 20s. He's a bit baby faced.
I see that. Yeah, he's 36, but he has got a very young face. That's a really good call. He really does look similar.
I know, it's crazy. And the album, I think, was Emotional Manipulator.
Okay.
I think so. I probably got that wrong, but yeah, it's that's all I could think about watching the movie, and that was getting me through it.
There he is again. And yeah, that baby face mask is a creepy sort of coincidence.
Yes. Yeah, there's this great KEXP performance that they do where the radio person, the DJ, right, is in the room with the band while they're playing live, and he's got this baby face mask and an umbilical cord that he's like swinging around. That's wild. And he's just making the DJ like so uncomfortable.
What the hell is this?
Terrific.
That's amazing.
It's like high strangeness. It's so good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've got a couple more dot points of good things about the movie before we go back to hating on it.
Please. I won't go back to hating on it. We'll shift to something else.
I've also got another note of hating on it a little bit more. So we'll go through the good ones, then we'll go back for a little bit.
Sure, sounds great.
Michael Myers as well, when he gets older in the psych ward and he has his masks that he's working on, things like that. I don't know if you're much of a WWE wrestling fan as I am, but he puts on this mask when he's an adult and he looks just like Kane, early days of Kane the wrestler.
You're talking about.
Yeah, the red masked menace, they used to call him. And he had a very similar mask, and his hair Michael Myers' hair got darker, so it was more brownish. And it just, the way it was hanging over, it was just like Kane, and I couldn't unsee it. I even looked to see if Kane was acting in this movie. He wasn't.
I did the same. I had that same observation because I know nothing about wrestling really.
Oh, okay.
But I know that guy. Yeah. And also because Michael Myers in this film is so big.
Exactly, like,
he's tall. He's like built like a wrestler.
Yeah.
And I thought for sure it was him. But yeah, I didn't recognize the guy.
Exactly, because Kane is in horror movies as well. He's done a couple of them. I forget what they were called, but there was a couple of them back in the day. Yeah, and exactly like you said, he's like 7 feet tall and a huge built guy. So I thought, okay, that's definitely Kane, but it wasn't. And I'm just wondering if Rob Zombie is like a fan of wrestling and he just made that like age of Mike Myers look a little bit similar to Kane just for fun. Because it was like side by side perfect. So I like that touch. And also I will say some of, although there was obscenities and profanities out the wazoo in this movie, incredibly offensive stuff in certain parts, there was also some brilliant parts that were kind of funny where you could see Rob Zombie's like maybe lyrical flair came into effect. So there's this one iconic scene, you may remember it when I tell it to you, where it's like a trucker is at a truck stop and he's sitting on the toilet, taking a hefty dump.
Yep.
and Michael Myers obviously comes in and to the, bathroom, I guess. And he's just standing there and the guy's like, hey, give me some space. He's like, I'm trying to, have an argument with a burrito I ate and saying all this funny stuff. And then he starts getting frustrated because Michael Myers is not saying anything. He's just probably staring like outside the cubicle, staring there. And so he has this iconic... I think
you can just see his boots.
Yeah, you see his boots. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, what the hell's going on? So he has this iconic quote that I wrote down because it was so good. He says, look, brother, if you're looking for some kind of action, you'd better take it on the arches before I'm done dropping this load. I was like, that's so funny. That's so cool. Just like,
I will say something I liked about this movie was Malcolm McDowell, the guy who plays Dr. Loomis.
Yeah.
Who I was wondering, where do I recognize this guy from? And he was the guy who starred in A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. I also feel like he's in something like Silence of the Lambs or something like that because I recognized his face. But yeah, he was really good as Dr. Loomis. You're right.
I wish that I could see him play this character in the original film.
Yeah.
You know, no slight to Donald Pleasance, but if we could just like graft, maybe we're getting there with AI. If we could graft Malcolm McDowell in and see what it would be like. Yeah. But there's this great scene where he's buying the gun.
Yeah. I remember that.
That he's going to use to kill Michael.
His patient.
He's patient, and he's not being very patient while buying this gun. He's like, yes, show me a gun that I can use, you know, to defend myself. And the guy's like, oh yeah, this handgun, this revolver, it's oh man, it's a thing of beauty. It's just look at the craftsmanship. Oh, it's just absolutely amazing. He's like, oh yes, this would do nicely. And then the guy's like, oh well, if you want something that's like really gonna stop someone in their tracks, then this is your gun. And he just immediately takes it and goes, yes, this is the gun.
Yeah, I love that part. He's like, well, that one, it's not going to stop him in his tracks. If you really want to do some damage, like, here's one for you. He's like, yes, just wrap it up. I'll take it.
Please, I've got somewhere to be.
Yeah, exactly. And then
I think he asked like, oh, so what are you using this for?
Yeah, he did. He asked. What did he say? I can't remember. He's probably, I think
the scene just ends.
Yeah, it just cut scenes because he didn't reply.
It's like, I don't know.
Just walks out the door.
Although given how he's talked to everyone previous to that, he probably tells the gun guy. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go shoot a patient of mine. He's this really evil motherfucker.
He's big. He's like a bear. I got to shoot him twice.
Well, in that case, you're going to want this.
Yeah. You want a shotgun for that if he's big as a bear. Yeah. This movie also made me feel that way about Dr. Loomis even stronger, because this movie really doesn't do him any favors as to being a psychiatrist, because he spends over 15 years with Michael Myers as his patient. And,
yes,
you know, the indications are that, oh, this is from childhood trauma and stuff. So you'd think that, oh, maybe there's some hope for him. And then he goes and he writes a book about him. And he does these like lectures and stuff where he's up in front of a bunch of people saying he's pure evil, he's incarnate, he's dark as sin, he's black as the color of his eyes, hide your children. It's like, okay, he hasn't done anything yet at this point. He hasn't even hurt.
Right.
I mean, he killed his family as a child, but as an adult, he hasn't done anything yet.
And he actually, I think he didn't understand what he had done, or you know, he had disassociated.
Exactly, yeah.
And then Loomis just watches him disassociate and degrade even further. At least in the original, you know, we never hear Michael speak. And so it's like, oh, maybe something on that night just like clicked and he was like that forevermore.
He's possessed or something.
In Rob Zombie's Halloween, we see him degrade over time in the care of Loomis.
Yeah. And then for him to just slander his patient like that. And there wasn't that much indication that he was, you know, evil as sin and all these words that he was using. Right. It was just like he was painting black masks and being silent for the most part and dissociating, like you said. And obviously he killed his family as a kid, but I mean, you know, he's a patient, for goodness sakes.
That's right. And Loomis, like we almost get a montage actually of his care of Michael.
Yeah.
Over that 15-year period. And the funniest thing is when he retires. And he's like, well, Michael, I've done all I think I can for you. I'm going to retire now. I'm no longer a psychiatrist.
I forgot about that. He was like, I just need to move on.
We're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
This relationship has has run its course.
I love the part where he's like, you've become like my best friend over these years, 15 years of silence. And what does that say about my fucked up life? Yeah, what does that say, buddy?
It's funny as well because he's like so strongly trying to come across as like the groovy psychiatrist.
Yeah.
The kind of edgy guy, with his long hair and his British accent.
Yeah.
And then it fast forwards to him being an older man. It's so jarring.
Yeah.
But somehow he's like the best character in the whole movie.
Yeah.
I feel.
And then, of course, he's proven right. Like all his evil, like quotes and stuff that he says about Michael Myers are justified in the end, which is
right.
Which is kind of a trope among some of these movies as well. And that's interesting in itself. It's like your fear about someone is justified.
Right. Is there something to say about that then I can't believe I'm reading so deeply into this movie, but about fate and prophecy and Loomis foretelling what is going to... this rings true of the original as well. Like Loomis telling everyone, prophesizing what's going to happen on this night.
Yeah.
If we don't stop Michael, and then, Michael lives up to that prophecy, it's fulfilled.
Yeah, there definitely is an element of that original fate from the original Halloween movie. I can see that.
Fate.
Fate.
Yes.
With a capital T. There's also one fun moment that we talked about earlier before the podcast, where our very own intro that you made for our potty,
yes.
where the skeleton rises out of the depths, actually appears. Oh, see, I may actually be able to play it here. There, that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, look at that.
Yep.
Quick editing. That actually plays in the Rob Zombie remake on the TV, like during one of the babysitting nights. They're just watching a horror movie and that appears. And I was like, hey, I know where that's from. We use that too.
So that's public domain footage, which I guess is why it was in the Rob Zombie movie, because you don't have to pay licensing for that.
Yeah.
But that's from a film called House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah.
And that's some ghostly specter arising from some pool in a basement. It's like of this mansion. It's very unclear why it exists.
It's a really cool like practical effect. It looks really cool.
yeah, it does.
It's a cool little Easter
way
egg.
Too much cool stuff.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I hadn't picked up on it. I'm surprised. It
was only a second on screen.
Surprised that you did.
Yeah. But I was paying a lot of attention actually to the movies that they were watching, because there was like several scenes where the kids were watching movies while they were being babysitted, and it didn't always show the screen, but you could hear the audio. And I was like, it sounded sort of like Assault on Precinct 13 at one point, but I couldn't decipher what it was. So I was actually paying attention to what was playing, and then they showed the screen and it was that.
Well, interestingly enough, in the original Halloween, a film called The Thing is playing on the television when the children are being babysat. And of course, John Carpenter would go on to make The Thing. I think the film that was showing was The Thing from Outer Space. But all that you can see is just The Thing, and it's kind of even the same font that he would later use.
That's so cool.
For The Thing.
I love the movies within a movie Easter eggs. I'm always on the lookout for those now.
I was like, wait a minute, that hasn't been made yet at this point.
It's so cool.
But yeah, I don't think we've talked about like the original Michael Myers properly. We've sort of talked about him in passing, but he was played by Nick Castle who was a friend of John Carpenter. He was an aspiring director himself, and he said to John Carpenter, like, oh, can I come hang out like on set while you're filming this?
Yeah.
You know, and I can like pick up on anything. I can help out. I just want to get a bit more experience.
That's so cool.
And he was like, yeah, put this mask on. You're the bad guy.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of screen time.
And yeah, he's like, you know, in a lot of ways, the main character. He's the most iconic character in the film. You know, a lot of what Nick Castle brought to the role has been attempted to be emulated by the Michael Myers actors that followed him. It's funny, actually, the way that he moves and the way that Nick Castle acted throughout the movie. He kept on asking Carpenter for direction.
Yeah.
You know, well, what's my motivation in this scene? And Carpenter's just like, don't act. Like, just walk. You walk from here to there. You stab.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just be your natural awkward self is like the perfect version, to be honest.
Right. That's exactly what he said. He was like, the way that you walk is like a good killer walk.
Yeah, don't change anything. He's getting all self-conscious. Wait a minute.
Perfect.
Wow. You must consider acting more.
Sorry, just on Nick Castle, I've got a note here.
Yeah.
So he was an aspiring director. Mm-hmm. We know that. What did he go on to direct? And this is an interesting tie-in because we've talked about this in previous episodes. I think there was a Swedish television show that you were talking about.
Yeah, Email.
It's very similar to this. Well, then you know what I'm talking about then.
Yes, I do.
He filmed Dennis the Menace in 1993. Which is a wild movie for Michael Myers to have gone on to have directed. Sorry, Nick Castle, I mean. And it's a funny parallel, I think, because like Dennis the Menace, Michael is this kid around the neighborhood that has this infamy attached to him. And, you know, people attribute all this malice to this legendary evil kid about the town.
There's a lot of similarities, isn't there? That's so good. I wonder if I've seen that original Dennis the Menace, because I remember I was a big fan of Dennis the Menace growing up, so I must have seen the movie. But that's so funny to know that Nick Castle did it. I had no idea.
I think it is the one that we would have watched because I'm assuming there aren't that many.
Yeah.
But it seems like at the time that we would have watched it as kids, it would be like way too soon for them to make a remake. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they were just churning out Dennis the Menace movies.
Dennis the Menace IP is big. It's in.
That's right. It's the new Halloween.
Yeah. These meddling kids. We need Dennis the Menace in space immediately.
Yeah, everything ends up in space if you let it.
Yeah. Eventually. Although I don't think any of the Halloween movies have ended up in space, which I'm slightly disappointed by, but also impressed.
Yeah, I hope they don't.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
It'd be terrible. Yeah. Can you imagine? What would the plot be?
It'd be like because he can't die, so they would send Michael Myers can never die, so they ship it's the future now, it's like the year 2030 or whatever, and they ship his body on a one-way flight to the moon in a coffin, locked, like nailed shut, and then they go back.
Just nails.
Yeah.
Like all of the technology that they used to get him there is like highly advanced.
Yeah.
And then they just put nails in the coffin. Yeah. That'll stop him.
Yeah, exactly. They do it all rugged, like he's the Antichrist, like Dr. Loomis says. They got a cross on the coffin. They got it nailed shut and stuff like that. And then
that's right.
someone eventually does another moon landing, and then he pushes out of the coffin and stabs in space with a chunk of wood from the coffin.
Oh.
Or the flag itself that they put on the moon.
Oh. Man, that's great. That would make a great poster as well.
Yeah. Welcome back. Oh, it would be, the tagline would be like, "We should never have gone back to the dark side of the moon."
I love it. Be like called Halloween Orbit or something.
Yeah, Halloween in orbit.
I reckon on his way there, he escapes from the coffin.
Yeah.
And like kills the whole crew or something.
Yeah, he would. He always escapes.
Yeah. There's someone on the crew, maybe a descendant of Laurie Strode.
Of course.
And she's been sent along to like make sure that he's put on the moon.
Yeah. And they have a space battle or something.
Yeah.
Or like a rescue ship comes because they lose contact with the ship and they don't know what's going on. So they board the ship and then he's there and it's like running through the ship in like low gravity away from Michael Myers, going like this.
Gosh, okay. Yeah. Let's take him to space.
Yeah, I've reconsidered it now. I've reconsidered it.
That's fine. That's fine. That's a fine thing to do with the franchise.
One day. Let's see what we can do first. I was gonna say, if we're going to talk about the newer Halloween from 2018, should we get into that? Yes,
let's.
Because I really want to see this trilogy now, because I remember when the trailers were coming out for this movie back in 2018, and I was like, oh, okay, I don't know anything about the Halloween franchise, so I'm not going to watch it. But I thought it looked kind of cool. And upon watching it, oh my God, this is a good movie. This is really, really good. Holy heck.
Yeah, it was a solid first movie.
Yeah.
I've only seen the first and the third movie in this trilogy. And I watched the third movie first. I was invited along to it.
It's chaos.
And I was like, oh yeah, I know Halloween. I've watched Halloween many times.
Yeah.
Like, I'll understand what's going on in this movie.
Nope.
And then I was like, nope.
But
yeah, it's a solid movie.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis does amazing, coming back to reprise her role as well as now in the future, in the modern day kind of thing. And oh my God.
That's right. She's like a doomsday prepper in this.
Yeah. And that's what I meant. It's another scenario, just like Dr. Loomis, where his fears about Michael Myers justified in the end in the Rob Zombie remake. In this one, Laurie Strode's doomsday prepping, paranoia, her traumatized mind that even affects her children because they had to grow up around her, it becomes justified throughout the movie because Michael Myers escapes once again and comes for revenge.
Yes. On Halloween.
Halloween.
How does this keep happening? Just bump up the security at these high security prisons around Halloween for this one guy.
Yeah, come on. How powerful is he? You need like military there.
And they really should have. There's some funny things in this movie as well, like the podcasters at the start.
Oh yeah, the podcasters
trying to get the inside scoop. They're trying to get him to talk.
Yeah.
So, look at this mask.
Yeah. Look at
talk.
it.
What do you feel?
I remember that was the trailer to the movie, as it's like this cool checkered flooring, like red and white area of like outdoor area of the psych ward. And the podcaster guy's like, look at the mask, as all the other patients are freaking out because the tension is just building for some reason. And Michael Myers just has his back to him as he's chained up, just like, nope. Whatevs. I'm not going to be on your podcast, dude. I don't speak.
Like the worst podcasting guest ever.
Yeah. I mean, God, come on, guys. I listen to podcasts here. I mean, I'm not out of touch with the real world.
Yeah, my thing is not talking, except he's not saying any of this because he doesn't talk.
This is what we infer from the scene.
Right. Yeah. He acts a lot with his body.
Yeah. It's very still. He's very still, but you can read a lot into that.
Yeah.
Leaves it open.
Yeah, I think that was Nick Castle as well.
No way. Again.
Yeah, let me just check that.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't think it was Kane because he wasn't in any of the movies from my research, but I was very suspicious every time.
Yeah, I kept on looking for him and I just couldn't find him. No, it was James Jude Courtney. Nick Castle was also Michael Myers.
Oh, so I guess.
Oh, and this is this weird thing with Nick Castle's Michael Myers. Is they want him to be Michael Myers when he's wearing the mask, but they don't, and this is true across like every movie that he's been in as Michael Myers. As soon as the mask comes off, they switch him out for another actor. And there's like funny interviews where he's like, oh yeah, it's because I'm way too handsome, and they're like, nah, handsome guy like Nick, he could never be a messed up psychopath like Michael Myers.
Yeah, it's just not believable.
So even in the first one where the mask comes off in the stairwell at the end, and he's like, oh no, my mask. That's some other guy. They put another guy in. They don't even know like John Carpenter was like, I don't even know the name of that guy. Like I've completely forgotten who he was.
There's just a guy on set. Like he was just helping with the catering or something. They probably didn't have catering with their budget, but it was the same guy that was picking up leaves.
Right. He was the leave guy.
Yeah. That's what we think anyway.
I mean, it might be true. That might be a scoop. Yeah. We'll see if it lands on the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I mean, we talk enough on these podcasts that eventually we'll get something right, and then it would be confirmed, and everyone would be like, "Whoa, these guys know their stuff."
What is it? A Million Monkeys on Typewriters will eventually write all of Shakespeare.
Yes, that's us. We're going to eventually hit all the points of everything, and just yes. Fate.
That's right.
It's fate.
It is fate. Fate.
Yes.
But yeah, the newer movie, or the start of that trilogy, the third Halloween that we're talking about, I really liked. Man, I've already forgotten the name of. Nope, there we go. David Gordon Green directed it. Mm-hmm. And he has more recently kicked off the Exorcist trilogy, the new one that's coming out. Yes. And my horror hot take is I actually liked that movie. I thought it was a really solid. I thought it was a solid first movie for a new trilogy.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for the hot take box.
There you go. We didn't have a note prepared, but there you go. Yeah, I'm yet to.
No, that was just off the dome.
Off the dome hot take. That one's for free. I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm really interested to get into the Exorcist movies, especially after this Halloween one, because I think I gotta say this new one I enjoyed the most out of all the Halloween movies and the related movies that I watched in preparation for this episode. Obviously, the original, you can't replace it, but this new one was a really, really good take on the franchise. And I like what they did with the story, because I think the idea was that it disregards every other movie other than the first one. I think that was the case I read online.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much. They even retcon the Laurie Strode is the younger sister of Michael.
Yeah.
That kind of like brings Michael Myers back to his roots, which is he's just a motiveless killing machine who's just tearing through everything, and he somehow has this affinity or this level of recognition for Laurie as the person who got away.
Yeah, he's really well and truly possessed in the way that he really should be in these movies, I think. And the The cinematography was amazing. I know I had a quick look, and the one name I recognized was Danny McBride, who I think was involved with some of the production and maybe some of the writing.
Yes. Yeah, he was involved in a big way with the writing for this.
Yeah. So that's cool, because if you people don't know, he's like a comedy guy, but he's made his way into the horror realm as well with a few movies. And so that was really cool to see something that he's worked on. I quite enjoyed that. And also, I think he
also did the original story for the new Exorcist movie.
Yeah, I think he was involved with The Exorcist, wasn't he? So that seems to be the case with a lot of directors and stuff. They have similar people that they like working with. So maybe that's the case there. So I love that
he
for him.
Seems to be like a collaborator with David Gordon Green.
Yeah. No, I really love that for him. I've really thought he was a really funny guy in a lot of stuff that he's been in. Eastbound and Down comedy show in particular. But it's really cool to see him in the horror realm now, to see what he can do with his writing chops.
Well, yeah, he was in Alien Covenant.
Oh, yeah, he was the captain of the ship, right? Or the driver of the ship, I guess.
That's right. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was trying to think, like, when's the last time I saw him in a movie?
Yeah.
That's right, Alien, yeah.
Yeah. He's been in a couple little things here and there like that, I think. Nice.
No, interesting guy. I wonder what else he's done in in terms of horror writing.
I think there's quite a few.
I see his name pop up a lot.
Yeah, but those are certainly the big ones. Obviously, the Halloween franchise and the Exorcist trilogy coming out now as well. And I want to say, in the Halloween 2018 movie, the use of the original music was like perfect. I thought in the Rob Zombie one, they kind of mistimed it in certain scenes. It didn't always work out. But in this one, it also sounded like they modernized it as well, which you'd probably be able to speak to as the music man on our podcast. But it sounded really good.
Yeah, it was definitely remastered. Yeah, and like you were saying, the placement, the rhythmic elements, like the movie was definitely edited to the music rather than it just being overlaid on the top. It was definitely like the feel of the scenes was a lot more cohesive. And I feel like that's something that David Gordon Green does well.
Okay.
He captures the feeling of the original source material quite well and like emulates it and makes it more modern. That's what I really felt from this movie. Like, it was a fresh story.
Yeah.
First of all, it didn't overstretch too much. It was just an extrapolation of, okay, we know these characters from the original. X number of years have passed. What are they doing now? Yeah. It wasn't like weaving sort of backstory in to try and justify big moments.
Yeah.
It was just, if we draw a line from the old movie to this, what do we get? What sort of character development happens? That was nice.
Yeah.
It didn't try to put too much of a spin on the original story.
Yeah, it didn't try to do anything too crazy with it. And that was the thing as well. I believe when I was reading up about it a little bit, John Carpenter was hesitant to give the green light to this trilogy or this movie in particular. But then when, the potential writers and makers sat down with him and talked about it, it was like, okay, this sounds actually a good direction. This is really good. So I think getting that thumbs up, that really helped it stay true to the actual OG Halloween vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't seen the second movie, obviously, but
me neither.
Revisiting the third movie, I think unfortunately it doesn't quite maintain the momentum of the first. So just fair warning.
Okay.
I don't want to color your watching of it too much, but
can't win them all.
Yeah.
At least there's at least one good one.
That's right.
Out of the trilogy. I mean, does everything have to be a trilogy as well? That's a whole other thing,
Yeah, I mean, 3 is a good number for these things.
The devil's tritone.
Right. Yes, a triptych.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's all about money, right? It's all about generating revenue. And with these like reboots of old franchises, you know, they're almost absorbing some of the marketing cost, you know, by using using sort of the goodwill and the nostalgia factor of these like old movie monsters.
Yeah, it's so true.
So yeah, it is ultimately all like a money-making endeavor, but I really got the feeling that with this movie, the people involved really dearly love the source material, and they really wanted to make a great movie out of it. Not to say that Rob Zombie didn't love Halloween. Yeah, with this newer trilogy, I feel like there was like intention there.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to not see these kinds of movies, like these reboots, because it's fun to watch these monsters that you know and love.
Yeah, it's
great.
The expansion of the movie universe. It's the chance to modernize a classic as well in a really good way. Sometimes it works, and I feel like there's a bit of, you know, even though Rob Zombie probably loved it as well, it has to be a bit of like the stars have to align, right? It has to be the right people involved in it. There's an element of fate, one might say.
Yes.
Dramatic pause.
Dramatic pause for effect.
I couldn't hold it for too long.
You're like, oh, the dead air. We must fill it.
Yeah, I'm too podcast brained.
Oh, me too. Maybe that's a good place to put the pin in the tale of the 3 Halloweens.
Yeah, we've met our fate.
Yes, it's the end of the road for us, for this story at least.
Yeah, for this episode.
Thank you everyone for joining us on our journey through the Halloweens.
Yeah.
Now, all of those are available on Netflix.
Oh yes,
currently?
I've got the rundown for you. We've got.
Thank you.
We've got most of the Halloween movies are actually on Stan. Almost all of them are. And I'm talking the sequels, 1, 2, 3s, everything. They've got a very extensive list on Stan. But the ones we talked about in particular, the original 1978 Halloween is on Netflix, Stan, and Amazon, so it's everywhere. The Rob Zombie one is on Netflix and Stan. The 2018 Halloween is on Amazon, Binge, and Foxtel Go. So obviously Binge has the rights for Australia there rather than Netflix and Stan. So yeah,
gotcha.
The other ones that we mentioned, Assault on Precinct 13 is available on Netflix. And Black Christmas, that we didn't really talk about, but that's another influence, the original, is available on Tubi, which I really love. It's a free streaming movie platform.
Nice.
So it's on there.
Nice, that's good.
It's a free one for everyone.
So, yeah, what's coming out that you're excited for?
Yeah. So we're going to try a little new segment where we update you guys on something new in the horror world. And today I've picked out a movie called Totally Killer. It's an Amazon original. Oh, you know about this one? You know?
I've seen it.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, you can.
Yeah.
I'll give a quick rundown, then you can speak on it a little bit then, because I have not seen it.
Yeah, sure.
So it's an Amazon.
It'd be funny if you've seen my one.
That would be so good. We chose opposite ones. So this is an Amazon original that came out in early October, so just in time for spooky season. And it's a horror comedy. It looks like really funny. It's got a lot of comedic actors in it. And also it's very much the slasher kind of genre and thematics played into it. It's got a masked, killer and the knife and everything. And it's going through sororities and things like that and young people and everything. So I think it's, judging by what I can tell, it's going to be a really fun spin on that horror slasher. So yeah, pick that one up.
Absolutely. So I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Nice.
It's probably the most fun horror movie I've seen this year.
Oh, good.
It's like unapologetically silly.
Awesome.
And it's kind of like Scream meets Back to the Future meets Clueless or Mean Girls. You know, it's like those three worlds sort of combined. Yeah, it's an absolute laugh.
That's awesome.
I liked it.
Okay, I imagined it being like similar to Scream kind of vibes, so I like that. And also it's starring, I don't know how to say her name, but Kieran Brennan Shipka, who starred in the Sabrina Netflix series. So that's also a little...
That's where I'd seen her.
Yeah, there you go. So I thought that's a little way to entice people in because she was really good in that Sabrina series. And that's kind of a horror adjacent one as well.
Yeah, I've been scratching my head about this the entire time, thinking like, where have I seen this actress before?
Yeah,
I sort of
Sabrina.
Looked a bit at her filmography, and I was like, I don't really see anything here that I recognize. I forgot to check TV shows though.
Yeah, that's the one. That's what all the kids are down with these days. All their TV shows on Netflix and Stranger Things and yo-yos and gadgets.
This damn spinning discs on strings,
fidget spinners and
yo-yos.
Yeah, Orbeez and dishwasher tablets and whatever they're into. Tide Pods. I don't know what the kids are into these days.
Oh, gosh.
But yeah, totally killer.
God, I can't even think of other elements of recent culture to throw in.
Mr. Beast.
I'm dead on Tide Pods. What the heck?
Yeah. That was the killer meme. Literally the killer meme.
Oh. Yes.
So Totally Killers on Amazon Prime Video. Give that a watch, guys.
My thing that I'm looking forward to, it's just come out as well. It's called When Evil Lurks. It's out on Shudder, the horror movie streaming service. And by all accounts, people have been saying it's a very brutal movie. It's by an Argentinian director, Demian Rugna, and it's about demonic possession.
Oh.
And it looks really good.
I've heard that this one is incredibly scary. I remember seeing that pop up on like a YouTube video. It's a nice pick. I like that.
Yes. Yeah, I'm waiting for the right time to watch that. I think it might be this weekend.
Awesome. So that one's on Shudder, the horror streaming app.
It's really good, Shudder. I've seen a lot of great movies on that. And they've got a lot of movies that they're producing as well, which is really cool. There's a movie on there at the moment because we were planning on doing a shark movie deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
There's a movie on that's a documentary that is just that. It's called Sharksploitation, and it's really good. It's really good, but it's very long. I've been watching it in like segments of like 10 to 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
But it's amazing. It's very detailed.
All about how we've made sharks into the villain, I suspect, through popular culture. Oh, but sharks are beautiful, majestic creatures. But I do enjoy a scary shark movie. That is one thing that cannot be taken away. Oh, boy. As everyone probably...
And the more ridiculous, the better.
Oh, yeah. The Meg. I love that one.
Land Shark. Have you seen that?
Oh, I saw that pop up, but I haven't watched it. No.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. In fact, there's a lot of fantastically stupid shark movies on Amazon Prime.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
Heck yes. I like this new segment. This is good. Each of us bringing a movie to the table for our listeners to check out if they're so interested.
Yeah, and put down in the comments films that you want us to watch. If you have any recommendations, or what are some films that you want to see us review or look into further? What deep dives do you want us to do? Yeah, all of that.
Oh yeah,
let us know.
We're definitely open to hearing what you guys want to hear about. Because, I mean, there's an infinite pool of movies out there, so we're not limited for choices, but it would be cool if anyone's interested in anything in particular.
Excellent.
That concludes,
a
Halloween episode, I guess. Yeah.
That's right. Thanks Thanks for coming along on the journey of Halloween, Torkel.
Yes, thank you for presenting us with this deep dive into the Halloween franchise and the humble beginnings of a beloved cult classic. It was wonderful.
I've had a lot of fun rewatching these Halloween movies, though.
Yeah, and you've made at least one.
Yeah, it's been really nice.
One new fan of the Halloween franchise too, and myself.
Oh well, that's great.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
So thanks, guys, for coming on the journey with us. It's been a ride.
Yes, we've been It Lives on Tape, and you've been lovely.
See you next time, everyone.